The supplement industry is worth $150 billion a year. The anti-aging industry is worth even more, and almost none of it is backed by evidence that it actually extends human life. I've spent over 25 years in internal medicine. I've read the research, I've watched patients age well, and I've watched patients who did everything right decline anyway. And what the data actually shows about longevity is not what most people expect. It is not a supplement. It is not a superfood. It is not intermittent fasting. Today, I'm going to tell you what the science actually says. The real list. The interventions with decades of evidence behind them. Some of them will surprise you. One of them will probably make you uncomfortable. Today we're going through 6 factors that the strongest available evidence, large-scale longitudinal studies, blue zone research, and clinical trial data consistently links to extended healthy lifespan. Not lifespan in a laboratory, not lifespan in theory. Lifespan in real human populations, tracked over decades. I'm going to tell you what each one is, what the research actually shows, and what it looks like practically, starting with the one that surprises people most. When most people think about exercise and longevity, they think about cardiovascular fitness. Running, cycling, heart health, and cardiovascular fitness matters. But the research from the last decade has fundamentally shifted what most longevity physicians prioritize, and it is not cardio, it is muscle mass. A landmark study in the American Journal of Medicine, analyzing data from over 3,600 adults tracked for nearly a decade, found that muscle mass index was a stronger predictor of all-cause mortality than BMI, body fat percentage, or cardiovascular fitness alone. People with the lowest muscle mass had the highest death rates, regardless of their weight. After 40, the body loses 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade without intervention. After 60, that rate accelerates. Muscle tissue is not just structural. It is metabolically active. It regulates glucose, produces anti-inflammatory myokines, and protects against the metabolic collapse that underlies most age-related disease. The intervention, resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. Not heavy powerlifting, progressive resistance, body weight, bands, light weights with controlled movement. This single change produces measurable mortality benefit within 12 months. Everyone knows sleep matters, but the nuance that most people miss is the difference between sleep duration and sleep quality. 8 hours of fragmented shallow sleep is not equivalent to 6 hours of deep consolidated sleep, and it is the deep sleep, specifically slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, that drives the longevity mechanisms. During slow-wave sleep, the brain's glymphatic system activates, flushing out metabolic waste products including amyloid beta, the protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. This clearance process only occurs during deep sleep. Miss it consistently, and the accumulation begins. During REM sleep, the body regulates cortisol, consolidates memory, and performs hormonal reset functions that no waking activity can replicate. A 2021 study in Nature Communications, tracking over 8,000 people for 25 years, found that consistently sleeping less than 6 hours at age 50 was associated with a 30% increased risk of developing dementia later in life. The intervention. Prioritize sleep architecture, not just hours. Consistent sleep and wake times, dark and cool room, no alcohol within 3 hours of sleep, no screens 60 minutes before bed. This is the factor that makes people most uncomfortable, because it implies that something you cannot buy or swallow matters more than most interventions in medicine. In 2023, the United States Surgeon General issued a formal advisory on loneliness, classifying social isolation as a public health crisis with mortality consequences equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. That is not a metaphor. That is a direct comparison based on epidemiological data. The Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest-running study of adult life ever conducted, spanning over 80 years and 2 generations, found one factor more predictive of healthy aging than cholesterol levels, genetics, or socioeconomic status: The quality of close relationships. Not the number of relationships, the quality. People with warm, trusted relationships at age 50 were measurably healthier at age 80. People who were lonely, even if otherwise healthy, declined faster on every biological marker measured. The intervention: one meaningful social interaction per day. Not social media, not passive contact, a conversation, a shared meal, a phone call with someone who knows you. The Japanese have a word for this: ikigai. Roughly translated, reason for being. The thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. In Okinawa, one of the world's 5 blue zones, ikigai is considered as fundamental to health as diet. And the research supports that this is not a cultural concept, but a biological one. A study published in JAMA Psychiatry, following over 6,000 adults for 14 years, found that people with a strong sense of purpose had a 15% lower risk of death from all causes compared to those without one. The effect persisted after controlling for depression, health status, and socioeconomic factors. Purpose appears to regulate the HPA axis, the hormonal stress response system, keeping cortisol patterns healthier and reducing chronic low-grade inflammation. The intervention: identify one activity that produces a sense of contribution, teaching, mentoring, creating, caring, building. Engage with it consistently. The biological effect is measurable within weeks. The nutrition landscape is overwhelming. Keto, carnivore, Mediterranean, vegan, fasting. Everyone has a protocol. Most of them have some evidence. None of them has definitive evidence that they are the one correct approach for all humans. But here is what the research does agree on, consistently across populations, across study designs. What you remove from your diet has a larger measurable impact on longevity than what you add. The 3 removals with the strongest evidence: added sugar, ultra-processed food, and tobacco. Combined, these 3 exposures account for a larger fraction of premature mortality than any dietary addition, superfoods, supplements, or functional foods included. A 2019 study in JAMA Internal Medicine found that every 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 14% increase in all-cause mortality. Independent of total calorie intake. Independent of micronutrient levels. The intervention: not a new diet. An audit. Look at what you eat in a week. Identify the processed items. Remove the 3 highest frequency ones. Do not replace them with supplements. Replace them with single-ingredient foods. This is the metric that longevity physicians increasingly consider the single most powerful predictor of long-term survival, and it is almost never discussed in routine medical checkups. VO2 max is a measure of your body's maximum capacity to use oxygen during exercise. It declines with age, but it is highly trainable at any age. A 2018 study in JAMA Network Open, one of the largest of its kind, followed over 120,000 patients and found that low cardiorespiratory fitness was associated with a higher mortality risk than smoking, hypertension, or diabetes combined. The top performers in VO2 max had 5 times lower mortality than the least fit group. 5 times, not 5%. 5 times. And the most effective way to improve VO2 max at any age is Zone 2 cardio, the exercise intensity where you can hold a conversation but breathing is noticeably elevated. The intervention: 150 minutes of Zone 2 cardio per week. Brisk walking counts, cycling counts, swimming counts. The intensity matters more than the modality. 6 factors. Here they are again. 1. Muscle mass. Resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. 2. Sleep quality. Architecture matters more than hours. 3. Social connection. Quality relationships, daily contact. 4. Purpose, ikigai, a reason to get up. 5. Removing processed food and sugar, not adding supplements. 6. VO2 max. Zone 2 cardio, 150 minutes per week. Here is the honest truth. None of these are new. None of them are for sale. None of them require a subscription. What they require is consistency. And consistency requires understanding why, not just what. That is what this channel is for. Not to sell you something, to give you the understanding that makes the behavior change sustainable. The science is clear. What you do with it is up to you. If this was useful, hit like. It helps more people find this information. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week I put out information that your doctor simply doesn't have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.